All right, and we're live. Everyone, today we got a special guest. Me and Lewis decided to put together a podcast. We've been trying to find more guests lately. And this is Susan Cachay. Am I pronouncing your name right? How do you pronounce your last
Cachay.
name?
Yeah,
Cachay?
that's right. Mm-hmm.
I actually only know that because of one of the actors from Trailer Park Boys.
Oh, I don't know how that fits, but okay.
Well, there's a Canadian show called Trailer Park Boys, and it's like made in Canada. Have you ever watched it?
No.
One of the main characters has the same last name as you.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty funny if you ever watch it. But yeah, she's a nutritional balancing practitioner. She's been doing this for many years. Me and Lewis, she's your you are under her as well, aren't you?
Yeah, Susan's my coach too. Yeah.
Yeah, so Susan actually coaches me and Lewis. So as you can imagine, she's a treasure trove of information. You know what I mean? She's been doing this many years. So yeah, we figured we'd have a chat with her and go ahead and just pick her brain about the program. About things she's experienced on the program with her clients and everything, how she got started. Susan, if you want to introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little about yourself and how you got started and everything.
Okay. Well, like many people, I actually kind of stumbled across it, interestingly enough, when I was doing some research on copper dysregulation and copper imbalance. I had been a nutritional consultant for a number of years already, and I was working primarily with people with food allergies and intolerances, and that was kind of my passion because that's something that I had struggled with from when I was a small child. But of course, as we know, there's a link to adrenal issues, copper issues, all of that. So I was always working on my own health, and what I realized with the work that I was doing was that it would help people temporarily. People would kind of feel better, but nothing I was doing with myself or with others was really deep enough to shift things in a really big, significant, long-lasting way, right? Like it would always be like, oh, yeah, there's a boost there, but oh, now I'm kind of feeling back to normal. So stumbled across sort of some work about copper issues, stumbled across Dr. Wilson's website, and went, wow, okay, this really resonates with me, right? Probably like both of you kind of stumbled across it, really resonates with me. And as with everything, I tried it with myself first before using it with clients. And, I tell people it's great to start full on, both feet in, but, it's also good to sort of start slowly with the program. And that's just what I did. I kind of started with a couple of different things, and I went, wow, you know what? There's really something to this. And I had, as I said, gone through a lot of different protocols and healing modalities and realized that there was something really special and unique about this. Not a quick fix, but something very unique. And started to do the full-on program myself. And then shortly after that, realizing that, wow, there's something significant here, started working with my clients with it. And yeah, not a quick fix, but much, much of a deeper healing than anything else I've ever come across. Very, long-term. So, and so now really that's what I do. I'm really focused on nutritional balancing, and I really don't work with other modalities because I find that they just don't go deep enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting that you was researching copper all them years back. What, 8, 9 years, 10 years ago? Because I did a lot of research myself. Obviously, I haven't come from like a nutrition or a medical background per se, but I was very interested in health, and the copper thing was the first time I ever came across it on Dr. Wilson's website. So I'm kind of interested how you was already researching it. Where did you hear about it from? And that'd be cool to hear.
Well, it's interesting because, as you know, there's a link between copper imbalance and PMS and menstrual issues. So that was something that I really struggled with for a long time. So it was really in my quest to find out, you know what, I'm doing all these different modalities. I feel like I'm looking after my health in a good way. why am I still struggling with this? Like, you know, I have 1 week out of the month that I feel okay, and the rest is sort of taken over by PMS, then menstrual cycle, and then sort of the after effects of that. So it was in the quest for trying to sort of resolve that issue with myself and with my clients. Happy to say that, yeah, I mean, on the program that totally 100% resolved for me. So yeah, it was along those lines that I stumbled across it for that purpose.
And was there a period in your life where you was feeling pretty sick? That's just one of the reasons why you kind of went onto nutrition yourself. I mean, from my own personal experience, it was because I was feeling really, really bad. But I know some people get onto nutrition just because they're genuinely interested in it. So yeah. Was there a point in your life where you was feeling pretty bad, and that's kind of what put you onto nutrition?
It was kind of a combination of the two. I would say that from the time that I probably was a teenager, something kind of didn't feel right. And again, probably that copper link, and when girls start menstruating and the hormones start shifting, sometimes there's difficulty in the body regulating that, right? And I see that a lot in my female clients, where when I talk to them about, you know, when did your issues start? A lot of them will say 13, 14, 15, like they remember that there's a significant shift. And that's definitely what it was for me, that I was like, you know what? And just not really feeling right in my body. So, and again, I had a lot of different allergies and things like that. So I wasn't really a sick person. Like I was always still really active, and my energy was okay for a while. And right when I started nutritional balancing, I was exposed to a toxin, and I was already quite chemically sensitive, and it kind of threw me over the edge. So initially it was kind of generally for my general health. And then at that point, I did become quite ill, and I knew that, you know, I needed to stay focused on the program to make it through that. And I did. Like it helped me significantly. So in my case, it really was sort of a combination of the two. Yeah.
Excellent. I think a lot of people watching would probably be quite interested in how the program's benefited you, because you've been doing it for over 8 years now. So I think maybe if you want to kind of discuss kind of the changes that have happened, and I would imagine quite a few things that you wasn't expecting,
right,
would have while you've been on the program, and maybe talk about kind of the moments or the time period it took where you really start getting up in the morning and thinking, wow, I'm really feeling fantastic. Because I know you mentioned to me recently that you know you're genuinely feeling great, which is obviously fantastic. But you know, you get the question all the time, how long does it take? It's different for everyone. So maybe you can tell people, you know, the times when you think, wow, you know, I'm really, really, really benefiting from this better than I, you know, expected.
Yeah, you know, that's a really big question. So let me just try and break it down. Okay, so there's so many things. Like I wish that I would have kept a journal. And I know some of my clients do, and I certainly encourage them to do that, because I think that along the way we kind of forget how many different things that we had, or there's things that we have that are priorities that we want to resolve. And then there's a whole bunch of other little things that you go, wow, you know, that wasn't really that important to me, but it's totally gone. So one of the things that I just wanted to mention, because I know that there's some women out there that struggle with melasma. And for those of you that are listening that don't know what that is, it's like skin discoloration that has a hormonal link. And it was something that since the birth of my daughter, when my daughter was born, that I started to really struggle with that. And it's really sort of off-putting. Like it's hard to sort of manage. And you know, I went through different things, even used different toxic products, tried to keep away from the sun. Well, it was funny because it wasn't really, it was a cosmetic thing, I felt like, and it wasn't really something that I was focused on when I started the program. But 10 months into the program, it was totally and absolutely gone. And if you do research on the internet, you'll see how difficult it is to actually deal with that issue. And how people use like toxic bleaching creams and all sorts of stuff to actually try to even manage it. So adrenal issues, thyroid issues, my thyroid had started to go wonky, and they put me on thyroid medication, which, you know, again, it sometimes even downregulates the thyroid gland even more. So that was something that totally resolved on the program, and I didn't need it anymore. Sleep issues, mood issues. Oh, I mean, the list goes on, right? So, and when I say adrenal and thyroid issues, right, I mean, that encompasses a lot of different issues, digestive issues. So there were a lot of things that, like a lot of people, where you just go along and you go, oh, is this what life is like? Like, do we just always have to struggle with this? And you don't realize, because sometimes it kind of sneaks up on you, like unless you're hit with something where you have an acute illness, when it's something that's kind of chronic, right, things kind of sneak up on you and you go, oh, this is kind of like, I'm getting through the day, okay, but what's going on in my body? And I think that you realize that you don't have to be that way. Like, there's a reason that the body is becoming more sluggish over time, you know, and part of it is different genetic mutations and things like, I mean, I'm MTHFR, like I have the, you know, homozygous mutation, all of that, which on the program we don't worry about too much because we focus on the whole body as a system. But I'm sure all of those different things were impacting me along the way over the years. In terms of my experience on the program, when I first started, I would say probably the first couple of months, I started to notice a boost. Like, I went, wow, okay, I'm starting to feel better. And then, as you two probably know, then the fun starts, right? Because when you start to sort of feel better in the beginning stages, that's your body increasing in vitality and energy, right? And as soon as your body starts to increase in vitality and energy, it goes, great, we've got energy. We're gonna get rid of some of these metals and toxins. And you go into a period or a cycle where it's very up and down, and it's very much like a roller coaster ride. I think Dr. Wilson talks about learning how to ride the waves on this program, right? And that's exactly what it's about, where you go, holy cow. So before this, I had done a lot of different cleanses, and I thought, oh, no problem. Healing reactions, no problem. Like, I know what that's all about. You get on this program and you go, oh my gosh, healing reactions, I had no idea that they could be this intense, right? And so one of the things that I find interesting in working with people is that even though you read that on the website and you think you're prepared for it, oftentimes we're not with the intensity of it. And I just talked to a client yesterday where that was the case. Well, yeah, I read about this up and down, but I feel like I'm so much worse, right? And if you're able to sort of manage that, and sometimes it means managing means that you've got to back off a little bit, right? And allow your body to catch up and get through that. That's where you'll start to see the true healing come into play. But it's not a quick fix. And I have to be honest, and I tell my clients this, you know what? It's probably 2 to 3 years on the program before you start to feel like you're in a place where the periods of being in a steady state of better energy, better mood, feeling better, become longer and more steady, right? There's still healing reactions after that, but it takes at least that long. Like, we are all so toxic today that to think about getting rid of enough metals and toxins that have been stored in our body, balancing the minerals enough, it takes at least that long. Like, when I started doing this work, you know, 8.5 years ago, I remember Dr. Wilson used to say 2 to 3 years. They like tell people they need at least 2 to 3 years. Now he's saying, tell people they need at least 5 years. Like, that's how the toxicity level in our environment has gone up, right? And it doesn't mean that you're not going to see periods before 2 or 3 years that you may go, okay, I'm in a place where, wow, this feels really good to me, because most people do. But I've also come across people that everybody's a little bit different, where when they're on the program, they're almost always detoxing. Like, I've had people where they go, wow, it's just full on all the time. And let's say they have visitors. I had one client who had visitors coming for a month, and she said, you know what, I'm going to take the month off because I can't manage doing the full program when I have all these visitors in my house and I need to do this cooking and everything. After the month was over and we touched base, she said, wow, I felt so much better than I've ever felt. much better than before I started the program. And I didn't realize how much the program was helping me until I backed off and stopped, right?
Yep.
And then people go, wow, what a difference. And as a practitioner, one of the things that I would say to those people out there listening is that doing the program full on is wonderful, but to realize that that means that there is going to be detox, there's going to be healing reactions, there's going to be times of feeling crappy. And if it's too much, instead of just going, I can't do this and giving up, to talk to your practitioner about backing off, right? If you're a person that's more sensitive, then you may need to go more slowly. It doesn't mean the program's not for you. It means that you need to work with your practitioner and adjust things a bit. I would say 80% of the people that I work with can handle the program full on, the supplements, the full doses, and then 20%, I have some clients that are so sensitive they need to start with like a quarter of each of the supplements every third day, not even every day, every third day. It doesn't mean they're not doing the program. It means that, you know what, they're in a sensitive body with a sensitive nervous system, and they feel every little change, and they just need to go slower. And to realize that it's a marathon, right? It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. We're talking big picture, long term. So,
right.
Yeah.
What kind of, in yourself and in your clients, what can you speak to sort of emotional changes that you've seen? Because one thing I've noticed is like, I think it also happens more to me more often than other practitioners because I work with a lot more young men just because they see the YouTube channel. And so me and Lewis, I think, tend to attract more young men than perhaps other practitioners. But I've noticed in a lot of my clients, they can handle, handling infections and stuff like that is one thing. Like you get sick for a while, you retrace an ear infection or something like that. But I've actually noticed that for a lot of people, the most difficult thing is actually this sort of like awakening process. So it's like death of the ego, kind of, I describe it as.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of my young male clients, especially ones that are like really strict about the program. And they're still, they're young men, so they're not too sick. Their body can detox pretty well, you know what I mean? They do the program really strictly. They get really into meditating and stuff. And then all of a sudden they reach this sort of like frenzy, and then it reaches like a point where they have like, basically it's like a breakdown of the ego, and they kind of realize, oh, I was like basically living a lie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of describe it as like, if you're born in a fog and you live your whole life in a fog, and everything you were taught about the world or about yourself and everyone around you is a certain way, and then all of a sudden that comes crashing down, that's a huge shock to like the psyche. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And when they move through it, I mean, they're better afterwards. But I think for a lot of people, it seems to me that actually the emotional changes or retracing like traumas is for a lot of people, it's more difficult. So what can you speak to that and how the program helps like awareness and emotional stuff?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I remember at the beginning of the program, most of my healing reactions were physical. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, I'd rather deal with the emotional stuff because that would be easier than having to deal with like the pain or the, whatever. And then I started getting emotional healing reactions. I went, oh my gosh, no, I'd way rather have the physical stuff. So yes, I agree with you. And, that's why we call this program a development program, right? And how this program is different than, I'll get questions, well, how is that different from just like eating paleo? Can't I just eat paleo? And it's like, well, this is a development program. This is not just a nutrition program. This includes an eating plan and diet recommendations, but this is a development program. So yes, I do agree that when you're on the program at some point, what happens is the awareness increases, right? So
right.
Luke, you're talking about, wow, that crisis, the awareness increases where people go, holy cow, yeah, how have I been living? I've been living this lie. And trying to come to terms with things that they did in the past or things that happened to them in the past. And I love Dr. Wilson's article on letting go. That letting go article is lovely. And it really helped me during sort of that time where that happened to me. But awareness about letting go of attachments, about forgiveness, about, and so I think the focus needs to be on that. It's kind of almost like a little bit of a rebirth, right? And you make the decision to go, okay, that was then, my awareness was at a certain place, and now here I am, and you know, I've gone through this development, or I'm still going through this development, and the focus needs to be on moving forward and creating space for what you want your life to look like, right, moving forward. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but it is something that, you know, I do find I went through, and that comes through, a lot of my clients get to that point where they go through that. And it can be one of the most challenging places in the program for people, for sure. Yeah.
It's a really interesting subject, actually. It's one of the most interesting ones for me personally. You know, I think a lot of people that are doing the program are very, very spiritually orientated. Naturally, like, their soul is literally very, very spiritually orientated, and they, on a deep level, they know that the world can run differently and is differently, but they've been brought up in a certain way, and they've got toxins and certain emotional traumas, etc. That as their kind of body's energy and their vibration kind of increases, that means that the world around them, the vibration has to increase as well. So old relationships and old kind of ways of being and old environments that they're in is just not resonating with who they are as a person anymore, because they're just letting of all of this toxins, these minerals, and they're just raising the soul's vibration and allowing the inner character and the inner moral self to start coming out. And for me personally, it was really, really important to surround myself by people that were just as aware as I was, because it made me feel less like an outsider. I was constantly surrounded by people that was on a vibration I was at 5-6 years ago. And I was in that mindset and that group set because of how sick I was and my own vibration. But I suppose deep down, as a spiritual person, that wasn't really me. And I suppose that's one of the reasons why I'm so willful in doing nutritional balancing, because I understand it at a deep level. It hits a certain chord inside of me. But one thing that's really helped me, and Dr. Wilson talks about it in his Lightworkers article, I know it's a very out there article, but for anyone that's kind of spiritually oriented or sees the world a little bit differently to other people, I would definitely recommend it, because it's kind of a mixture between letting go of the past, but also kind of bring it into your life, people and things and environments that resonate with you as a soul. So for me, going out in nature has been very, very helpful for me, and kind of realizing that that's kind of where I come from a little bit, and this general environment doesn't suit me anymore, and being around people that are already aware. You'd be surprised how many people out there are pretty aware. You know, they might not be following the nutrition balancing program, but they can kind of intellectually stimulate you and give you advice and listen to what you're saying, and they're much more loving people. So that's one thing that's really helped me, is a kind of a combination of letting go. I mean, letting go is a massive part of it. But you let go to open yourself.
Exactly.
Better way of approaching life. I don't think it's a good idea just to let go and kind of coop yourself up in your house and keep doing the program. Just yourself, because you're going to drive yourself insane. It's really important to move outwards a little bit, for, you know.
Well, yes, but the key is that actually when you start to sort of naturally let go of those things, like you were mentioning, you do create space for other things to come into your life. So I totally agree with you. And in my experience and with a lot of my clients, I've talked to them about how as you develop and your awareness increases, the type of person that you attract into your life is totally different than previously. So yeah, you know, I agree with you. You don't just want to let go of everything and be on your own. But as you sort of go, wow, this isn't really that great of a fit for me over here. Like, that doesn't feel really all that great. When you move forward on your journey, what most people notice is the type of people that they then attract into their life are the type of people that resonate more with how they are and how they're changing. And that's certainly true for myself, whether it's friendships or dating or whatever. Like, I just find generally the type of people that I sort of have around me now are much different. And that's really interesting, right? Again, it speaks to sort of the development piece on the program. You know, not just the nutrition part, or the, you know, eat this way, or let's detox, right? Which a lot of programs are like that. You know, a lot of programs are just, let's just focus on detox. Well, yeah, I mean, that's helpful to a certain extent. This program is really so much more than that, right? It's development. It's so much more. So,
and I think it's important to kind of realize that development, in reality, it's just the natural way a human was designed to live. Do you understand what I mean? Development isn't some kind of thing that Dr. Wilson's developed. It is the natural way that the human body is supposed to communicate with the world. So, you know, a lot of people kind of a little bit scared about development. They don't realize what it is. But if you can just realize that what we're trying to achieve is we're just trying to achieve basically what the body was designed to do, then I think it's much easier to kind of approach it in that sense.
I agree.
It makes you realize that what I'm doing here is not just a health thing. You know, it's not this word that I'm unsure about. I'm just literally allowing my body and my mind to be how God designed it to be.
Yes, and the way that I look at it, Lewis, is it's about removing interference for me. That's the way that I look at this program, nutritional balancing, primarily. So, and what you're saying, I agree with 100%, in that it's development is sort of what we're naturally meant to do. But toxic metals, toxic food, people that are perhaps toxic in our lives, all the different things, like us rushing around, right, in the world, everybody being so busy. All of that leads to what I think is, I call interference in that development, right? So the way, Dr. Wilson didn't come up with the development, right? He talks about it, but the way that nutritional balancing encourages that, or sort of helps that process, is that it simply removes some of that interference, right? We talk about, you know, enough rest, enough sleep, organic foods, removing toxic metals, meditating, moving the energy downward so people aren't so much in their heads. That is basically just opening the gates for people to develop, right? That's the way that I look at it.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
So speaking about the pushing down exercise, what are your sort of experiences with it, and experiences that you've had with your clients on the program? I always find it interesting how other practitioners navigate that subject, because I think me and Lewis probably do focus on that sort of the side of the program more than other practitioners. Because I get emails actually from other people's clients, or even other practitioners that see my videos, and they ask me about the pushing down exercise. So I do feel like sometimes practitioners can leave that part out because they're a little afraid to touch that side of things, or they don't really understand it themselves. So I'm wondering, you know, your experiences with it and with your clients, and how you sort of navigate that.
It was the one aspect of the program that I probably included last, if I'd be totally honest. And it was something, I was quite sort of up in my head and type A, and sort of, you know, multitasker, doing different things, right? And it was challenging for me, which is why I kind of left it to sort of the last thing that I included. And it's so interesting to me that the shift that I noticed when I did start to include it, where all of the rest of my progress seemed to speed up after that point. And I did definitely notice a shift in my personality, that I became much more grounded, level-headed, more steady. So I think generally, I love it that you guys focus on it. I love it, especially because I do see that you're working with a lot of young men, and I think it's so wonderful. I do see a lot of clients like myself that are resistant to it at first, and it's interesting, you know. I think that resistance actually sort of is something to sort of look at and go, well, what's coming up for me? Like, what is there that I maybe don't want to address when I'm calming my mind and sort of settling things down? So it's definitely something for my clients. What I tend to do is I tend to go through all of the different aspects of the program. It's a lot. If somebody has already read Dr. Wilson's website and is familiar with everything, oftentimes they're willing to start with everything at the beginning. If they haven't, it can be a lot, right? You can lose a client by going, here are all the components. I'd like you to start all this. Yeah. So what I tend to do as a practitioner is I tend to go, okay, well, what is realistic for you to start with at this point in time? And then as I go along working with people, we tend to sort of add in more things as they go, you know, until they're on the full program. So everybody's starting from a different point. Everybody has different goals in mind. And so as a practitioner, I'm mindful of that and have a discussion with them and see what they're willing to do, right? What they'd like to do, and support them in that process, and then encourage them as they go.
Right. Yeah, I do try to make, I think, a more of an emphasis on it than some other, you know, people that I've seen. I do think that it is the most powerful part of the program.
Yeah.
Like me and Lewis have talked about this on the podcast. Like, I can be sitting there meditating, and the energy is literally like making my body align, like structurally. Like, I get pops and stuff from meditation. It's crazy. Like, Lewis has experienced as well, like especially in like the jaw area, as it like helps the jaw and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
It's understanding to realize what you're doing as well. I mean, it's pushing down Ethereum. Yes. It's like you know, Ethereum's the most amazing substance ever, because you can give Ethereum to any organism, and it basically gives that organism life. It heals it. Do you know what I mean? The intelligence behind that particular substance is beyond anything. You know, I suppose it is this. If you're talking about God, then it is God kind of running through everything. So the more of this stuff that you get into the system, if this stuff gives life, it promotes life, then obviously, you know, it's the most important thing to do in many ways. That's why Wilson focuses so much on high etheric foods and, you know, open water and all these kind of things. It's just literally trying to bring as much etheric energy in as possible.
Yeah.
Moving on. Sorry, Luke.
Say that I've noticed that it helps if you you have to get a feel what type of client it is.
Yes.
With the meditation exercise, you know, if I get, you know, sometimes I'll get like a more Judeo-Christian, conservative, sort of like construction worker type, you know what I mean? I have to navigate the meditation as, well, you know, as it's a more, describing it as it's a more Judeo-Christian type of thing, and it's like bringing heaven to earth, and they kind of talk about it in the Bible and navigate it that way. Whereas if I get more another type of person that's like more counterculture, but they've done meditation, but they were moving it in different ways, you know, navigating that, because even though those type of people are more open to it, it doesn't feel as good to them, actually, I've noticed. So if like the more grounded people, like Christian type, if they do it and they actually, like, you know, they're able to embrace it, you know, and get over, you know, kind of like the mind stop and do it, it feels pretty good to them because they're more used to that energy. Whereas people that are more like that, like more yin, I would say, or their energy is moving more upwards and they think they're living like a spiritual life and all this different stuff, it actually doesn't feel good to people in the beginning. To a lot of people in the beginning, it doesn't actually feel good because it's actually like it's a more masculine sort of like father type energy. And I've realized that a lot of people like that are actually mad at that energy. They're mad at masculine, basically. And so it's important I think it's important to navigate, you know, what type of person they are and just kind of formulate how you're going to describe it to them. You know what I mean? And also just tell people, especially those type of people, it's not going to feel good in the beginning because you're not used to that energy in your life.
And I really appreciate you bringing up the physical shifts that you've noticed, because I had a discussion with a client, was it just a couple of days ago, about how he was saying, you know, I'm fine. I'm only interested in the physical components, in the physical healing. I'm not. And it's really interesting to me that the pushing down exercise really is part of that. Like, it's part of that physical healing. And so for you to mention such profound physical differences and changes that you notice with it is wonderful. Thank you. Yeah.
A lot of people, and it's for some people they get frustrated by it. I'm amazed, like some clients can do it right away, really powerfully.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually a mind trip for them. They're like, I'm capable of doing this? And it's like, they can feel it changing their body and warming them up and moving through them. And they're like, what is going on? And then some people, they have no idea what they're trying to do. They're like, am I doing it right? I have no idea what I'm doing. And then they get frustrated. So you have to kind of, it depends on the type of person you're getting a lot of time.
Yeah.
Cool. I was just wanting to just kind of go on from what we was talking about a little bit before. I think we've kind of answered this question a few times, but just want to kind of focus it in a little bit because I think it's really, really important. And as you know, as practitioners and as clients kind of know as well, the return rate on people staying on the program is not as high as we would like it to be. My question is, what do you want to say to people out there? What's the biggest reasons why people quit the program, and kind of any kind of quick advice on, you know, why you should be keeping to it, and, you know, the reasons why you might want to quit and how you can kind of move forward?
Okay, so there's two things that come to mind. First is that we live in a society where everybody's looking for a quick fix. I mean, who doesn't want that, right? Like, so. Right. So and there's so much, especially with their internet now, about, you know, take this, do this, this is the answer, whatever. Like, we're bombarded with that sort of mentality, right? Just take this pill. You go to the health food store, it's like, oh, you have this. Basically, it's treating symptoms, right? Everybody just wants their symptom to go away, not sort of looking at what's underlying that and getting to the root cause. So that's the first thing, right? That people sort of get drawn into that. The other thing is that I think that people run into a healing reaction that is overwhelming, and they start to feel worse, right? Just like the example that I gave you about that person who had company coming and then realized, holy cow, do I ever feel better? I'm so much better than I was before I started the program. I mean, you know, I remember her saying that she wouldn't have been able to handle having company in her house and being on her feet and cooking all like that, like, you know, ever before. So, one of the things that I find is really helpful is starting people off slowly. So, you know, I was talking about the 80% of people that can handle the program full on, right? And then 20% that can't. Well, sometimes I can tell as a practitioner who's going to fall into that 20%, right? If someone comes to me and they say, I'm so sensitive to supplements, I can hardly tolerate any. Well, then I know that they're going to fall into that 20%, and I can sort of prepare them and have them start really slowly. But there's other people that, because they're so eager to get well, they just jump in with both feet, and, you know, that's wonderful. But then they can be hit with a huge healing reaction, feel like they're getting worse. Okay, I see you. And then that's it. That's it for them for the program. And I feel like I feel badly for those people, because if they would have just started a little bit more slowly and gone, okay, let's just add one thing at a time. Let's just err on the side of being cautious. So when people come to me, even those that I think that can handle the full dose of supplements, I mean, I like them to take 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get up to the full dose. I don't want them to start right away with a full dose on the first day, right? Sometimes when people do that and they feel okay on the first day or the first full week, what ends up happening is the body just starts detoxing so fast. Again, it doesn't hit them until a month later, and then it's the same issue. So, and then I also run into people where, even though we've started them slowly, they feel like nothing's happening. And then it's not until the first retest that we can see, look, things are shifting, you're starting to release metals, your body's responding really well to what you're doing. So, you know, that's something that's really important. It's one of the reasons why we do a retest, to see how things are shifting, and also it's our roadmap, right? Also to see how we need to adjust things moving forward to keep people progressing. But, you know, sometimes people will go, well, it's not even worth me doing a retest. And I always encourage them to make sure that they do that. They at least do that to see, you know, how they're shifting and changing. So those are the two main things. There's also something that I love about the program, that when people get this concept, it makes all the difference. And that's the difference between the terrain theory and the germ theory, which I know people talk about a lot. right? So in our society, we're so used to focusing on the germ theory, meaning I've got Lyme, I've got this, I've got that. You know, I want something just to treat that. Well, in nutritional balancing, we go, no, 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 it's not about the germ. It's about the terrain. We're going to focus on the terrain. Well, changing the terrain and focusing on the terrain takes way more time than focusing on the germ, because when you're fixing the terrain, your body may go, well, we see that that's there, but we need to do all of this other stuff before we actually get to the problem that you're most concerned about. There's all this sort of underlying work that needs to be done. And that's what we do on this program, right? It's fixing the terrain. So I used to be one of those people that would be, oh, I have this, I have a cold, I have this symptom. Okay, I'm going to take this, this, and this. One of the most liberating things on the program is that, you know what? I trust that my body can deal with whatever is thrown my way. Like I don't have to worry about chasing the germ, because I've been focusing on, you know, changing the terrain and making the terrain healthier. And I just love that as part of the program. And again, it takes a lot longer. And I even still see practitioners fall into that, where they go, well, I have this. Can I take this? Can I take that? And sometimes a remedy is okay. Like sometimes we give vitamin A if we think that there's, you know, something that your body's dealing with. But over time, when you're on the program, that should get less and less and less. Your terrain is changing. You need less of that. You can trust that your body is able to handle what comes your way.
Right.
Right?
Exactly. Cool. Excellent. All right. So I'm thinking maybe we can just quickly hit some questions.
Okay.
Yeah. I got like 6-7 minutes.
Okay.
Right. Cool.
Sounds good.
All right. There's only a couple. So the first one is from Joe. Joe is currently cooking some vegetables as we speak, so that's brilliant, Joe. Well done. Susan, how long did it take for you to get over your initial sleep issues? That's what I have started doing the program for.
Oh dear. Okay, so the first couple of years were the worst for me. However, when I would be dumping toxic manganese, I had a lot of toxic manganese from the water that I drank where I grew up. Even still, there's toxic manganese warnings when I go on the website for there. Anytime I would release toxic manganese, my sleep would be totally disrupted, and I could have terrible, terrible insomnia. So one of the things that really helped me a lot was extra pyramid. And I know that's more like a remedy, but again, the calming minerals, right? It's one of the best things to take. So it was up and down for quite a long time before that leveled out. Yeah. And then because it's something I'm prone to, if I go through a big healing reaction, it's still something that I can say, oh yeah, you know what? I know that I'm dumping something. The amigos in particular, the other ones don't really seem to affect my sleep very much, but it's kind of the amigo group that does. So, you know, that's something now. It's so interesting because when I've been in a steady place for a really long time and I'm like, hey, I haven't had a healing reaction. When you're further along the program, you sort of want that to happen because you know your body's dealing with something.
Yeah.
Again, it's about learning to ride the waves. So now I'm like, well, you know what? I know that's going to be temporary and I'm going to get through that. But I know that's one of the biggest issues because our bodies heal as we sleep, right? So it's one of the things that if Paramin isn't working, there are some other things that we're okay with people using on the program that can help with sleep. So I don't mind remedies for that particular issue if a person needs them. But yeah, but know that it can be up and down if you're prone to that.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. What do you think about the blood type diet? Is this a good idea to follow? Many thanks.
Oh gosh, you know what? There's not really scientific evidence for that. And what I find is so interesting. The only people who have ever told me that the blood type diet has worked for them is type O. Yeah. And type O, what is it? It's meat. Right? Yeah. Like eat meat and vegetables basically. And so it's so interesting to me that like I'm blood type A. And so a total vegetarian diet, I was vegetarian in my 20s and then vegan and my health totally declined. from that. And, you know, I can't keep my iron levels up. Oftentimes your thyroid starts to downregulate, which is exactly what happened to me and why I ended up with thyroid issues. So, again, you know, maybe there's some things, what I like about it is oftentimes it eliminates junk food, right? Like a lot of eating plans. But I find that the people that seem to do the best are type O's.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I also have the same experience with that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, excellent. The last question, I'm not sure whether we're going to be able to answer it very well, but we'll give it a try.
Okay.
It's for all three of us. Interesting question. Question for all of you. It's a bit out there, but how long do you think you could extend life with a full nutritional balancing program?
It seems to me, even though this sounds crazy, many people, they want to, if you're starting on the program, you might want to steer away from the more esoteric, blurry articles.
Yes.
I was told when I first read his website that it was the truth. And so I do believe it is the truth. And so it does seem to me, if you start nutritional balancing at a young age and you do the pushing exercise every single day for at least an hour or two, it does seem to me that you can extend life much longer than it seems possible on planet Earth, maybe similar to the times of Noah. How long it actually goes, I don't know if you can live. I think at a certain point, you probably just let go of your body and you just go up to the heavens or something like Elijah, or, you know, you just go back to the heavens and you don't really, like, your time's up on planet Earth, even if you stay if your body is regenerating, you know what I mean? But I don't want to put a number on it because I don't know, but more than 150 years, it seems to me. Yeah. That's what my guidance is. That's the truth that I get. Yeah. More than 150 years.
There's a lot of certain Buddhist sects that focus on development. I think Dr. Wilson actually got a lot of his information from certain Buddhist development styles and information and stuff. And I've read a lot of stuff that they talk about, and they say, you know, basically when you get to a certain time in life, you get the feeling that it's just time to go. Something tells you that it's time to leave now, and they say they could have lived for a lot longer, but they just wasn't needed on Earth anymore, so they just kind of left the body and passed away that way. But interesting last question. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Susan.
You know, I don't know. So Luke, yeah, I probably agree with that. For me, I mean, my focus isn't on life extension necessarily. It's on feeling good. Like, even if my life ends up being, you know, a normal amount of time or the average, feeling good in your body is a whole different life than not. Like, having a day where you just feel great and everything is sort of the way it should be, and you know, you sort of have space for that and for moving forward in that way, is a whole different life than when you don't feel well. And so, you know, Lewis, I know you probably know what I mean for sure when you go, wow, I started from a place of being quite ill. You know, your life now compared to then, it's the quality of the life for me. That's what nutritional balancing is about for me. And it's going to be different for everybody. If it's about life extension, yeah, again, right? I think a lot of what happens when we sort of age is that, you know, the kidneys start to struggle, the liver gets sluggish, all the toxins and metals accumulate. So again, this program being about removing that interference, there's no question in my mind that it has the possibility of, you know, extending the lifespan. So I don't know, pick a number. I don't have a number in my head. Maybe Luke, you're right, 150, I don't know. But the quality for me is what is the most important thing. Yeah.
I can attest to that as well. Once you get to a stage where you feel good within yourself, but the life around you is very, very well balanced in a very wholesome way, and you get a lot of joy from different things. Like for me, life now, before it was like trudging through mud. Now I feel like walking through the Garden of Eden, picking fruits and having
yes, exactly.
That's what it feels like now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that I've still got a lot of work to do personally. I'm sure you have. Luke's the same, you know. Healing in one respect is just an ongoing thing.
Yes.
Maybe for eons, you know. So, but yeah, you've got to live for today, and the program definitely helps you do that.
Right.
Exactly.
Anyway, I think
it's having joy, I think. Like it's having, even if now I go through a healing reaction or there's something, but there's, instead of it being trudging through the mud and, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this? Or it's more that there's that joy, right? Do you find that that's sort of brought back where you go, wow, like there's just that happiness, you know?
Well, it's, you know, a lot of the coming alive from within patterns.
Yes.
I've had a few of them, and you can definitely feel it's like a fire inside of you.
Yeah.
And Dr. Wilson's bang on the money when he kind of talks about them patterns. So,
yeah.
you know, when you get in them patterns, you can start to feel what he's talking about in terms of, you know.
And for me too, like I feel more guided. Like I just literally get told what to do sometimes. It feels like, you know, I get like told, you know, what to do or like where to go. Like sometimes you feel more like it's part of a bigger fabric.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, well, we'd like to thank you so much for coming on. If you want to tell everyone where they can contact you and find you on the internets.
Sorry, you want me to tell them where to find me?
Yeah, where can they find you?
Okay, you can find me on my website, so www.nutritionalbalancinglifestyle.com. Or if you Google my name, Susan Cachay, I'll come up different places, and you can contact me that way.
Okay, cool. Well, we'd like to thank you so much. You know, maybe in the future we'll have you on again.
That'd be great. Yeah, it's so nice to chat with you too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, maybe we could do a regular thing like every month, because this I know there's a lot of people asking questions and stuff, and I'm sure that us three can kind of talk for a while. So we'll try and get sorted in the future, definitely.
Okay, I'd love that.
Okay.
All right, Susan. Well, thanks a lot for your time.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. Bye-bye, you guys. Bye.
Bye.